I stood in the darkness of our bedroom, holding her phone. The screen glowed, casting a cold light on my fingers. It was 1 in the morning, and the house was steeped in silence, only her steady breathing echoing from the next room. I shouldn't have been there, snooping like a thief, but something had gnawed at me that evening. Her quick glance away when I asked about her day, the way she clutched her phone like it was her lifeline. I'd never checked her things before. Never had a reason to. But tonight, my instincts screamed that something was wrong. I swiped the screen, expecting a lock. There wasn't one. A message stared back at me. Received 10 minutes ago, from an unsaved number. You sure he doesn't suspect anything? My heart clenched. I held my breath, staring at the text. Another message popped up. Can't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow? What the hell was tomorrow? I glanced toward the doorway. She was asleep, curled under the blanket, her face serene, as if the world hadn't just cracked beneath me. My hands trembled, the phone suddenly searing. I wanted to storm in, wake her, demand answers. Who was this? What was she hiding? But I didn't move. I knew too little. For now. I scrolled up, my heart pounding. The conversation was brief but devastating, vague plans, emojis, a familiarity that didn't belong to me. Miss you already, he wrote. Soon, she replied. No names, no details, just enough to make the wound burn. I forced myself to breathe. Maybe it was nothing. A friend, a colleague, a misunderstanding. But the words, he doesn't suspect, thundered in my head. That he was me. I placed the phone back exactly where it was, the screen dimming as if it could hide its secrets. My mind churned. We'd been married 6 years. 6 years of mornings joking over coffee, evenings planning trips we never took, quiet nights when I thought I knew her inside out. Had I missed something? Was I blind? I crept to the guest room where I'd been sleeping lately, insomnia, I told her, not admitting I felt her pulling away. The clock neared 2 a.m. I lay staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the past month. Her late nights at work. Her sudden need for space. How she stopped reaching for my hand. I wanted to believe it was stress, maybe a midlife drift, but that message incinerated every excuse. Someone else had entered our life, and she'd let them in. I didn't sleep. By dawn, I was already planning. I wouldn't make a scene, not yet. I needed proof, something solid, something she couldn't deny. If this was betrayal, I'd unravel it thread by thread. I wasn't the type to yell or beg. I'd be methodical. I'd be certain. The next morning, everything felt alien. She sat across from me at breakfast, sipping coffee, scrolling through her phone. I watched her fingers, quick, cautious, like she was guarding something. Then I noticed, the screen was locked. A new password. 6 years we'd shared everything, photos, silly memes, laughter. Her phone was an open book. Now it was a sealed vault. I tried to act normal, spreading jam on toast, but my eyes kept drifting to her screen. She tilted it away slightly when she saw me looking. What's up? She asked, her voice light, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. I shrugged, muttered something about work. Inside, I was screaming. Why now? Why hide? I couldn't let it go. When she left for work, I stayed in the kitchen, replaying last night. That text, you sure he doesn't suspect anything? Looped like a broken record. I tried to reason it away. Maybe it was a surprise, a gift, something innocent. But the secrecy didn't fit. She'd never locked her phone, not even when we fought. Not even when I teased her about her terrible taste in music. This was different. Deliberate. I paced the house, searching for clues. Her desk was pristine, her laptop closed. I hesitated, then opened it. Her password hadn't changed, a small relief. I checked her email, her calendar. Nothing suspicious, just work meetings and grocery lists. But in her browser history, I found searches, best restaurants downtown, weekend getaways. We hadn't planned a trip in months. My stomach twisted. Was this for us, or for him? I closed the laptop, guilt creeping in. What was I doing, spying? But then I recalled her dodge last night when I asked about her day. Oh, just the usual. The usual didn't involve late-night texts from strangers. The usual didn't lock me out. I poured another coffee, my hands shaky. I wasn't crazy. Something was wrong, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to be smart, not rash. Confronting her now would lead nowhere. She'd deny it, deflect, maybe even turn it on me. I decided to watch, wait, collect pieces until the puzzle was complete. I started small. That evening, when she got home, I asked casual questions. How was work? Who'd she see? She answered smoothly, but I noted her pauses, how she switched topics when I mentioned her phone. I tracked patterns. She used to be predictable, home by 6:30, dinner together, maybe a show. But lately, she'd been stuck at the office or meeting a friend I'd never heard of. I jotted it down in a notebook, hidden in my drawer, dates, times, excuses. I felt like a detective in my own marriage, and it infuriated me. But being played for a fool infuriated me more. I tested her. I left my phone unlocked on the counter, baiting her to notice. She didn't react, didn't ask why I wasn't hiding anything. Like she didn't care. That hurt more than I expected. By the end of the week, I decided I'd dig deeper. If she was lying, I'd find the truth. If not, I'd apologize to myself for doubting her. But I wouldn't stop until I knew for sure. She started staying late at work, blaming urgent projects. But her stories were too perfect, like she'd rehearsed them. She'd come home with a faint scent of perfume, not hers, and talk about her day with details that didn't add up. "Oh, we had a team meeting," she'd say. But when I asked where, she'd pause, then name a place we'd been to years ago, like it was a safe bet. I wanted to believe her, so I checked her laptop again while she was in the shower. Her search history was cleared, another first. But I found an open tab, a booking site for a hotel 2 hours away. My pulse spiked. We hadn't talked about a vacation. I clicked. The dates were for next weekend. She hadn't mentioned a word. I closed the tab, my mind buzzing. Was this for us? A surprise? But that text from her phone haunted me. Can't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow wasn't next weekend, but the secrecy felt the same. I searched her desk for anything, a receipt, a note. Nothing. Her planner was blank, which was odd. She used to write down everything. I waited for her to slip. That evening, she was chatty, overly so, like she was filling silence to keep me from asking questions. I played along, nodding, laughing, but I watched her hands. They fidgeted, twisting her wedding ring. She hadn't done that in years. I asked about her weekend plans, keeping my tone light. "Oh, just catching up on work," she said, glancing at her phone. I didn't push. Instead, I started cross-checking. Her late nights matched days she'd been vague about, meetings that ran long, errands she didn't explain. I checked our bank account, something I hadn't done in ages. Small charges stood out. A downtown cafe, a gas station near that hotel. None matched her stories. I felt sick, but I kept going. I needed evidence she couldn't dismiss. I considered calling her office, posing as a client, but that felt too far. Instead, I drove to her work the next evening. She claimed to be staying late. Her car wasn't there. I sat in the parking lot, gripping the wheel, telling myself to calm down. She could be anywhere, a gym, a store. But deep down, I knew. I suggested a date night, like we used to have, but she brushed it off, citing exhaustion from work. Her eyes avoided mine, and she busied herself with dishes, dodging me. So I decided to follow her the next time she said she was at the office. I hated myself for it, but I had to know. The next evening, she left at 5, saying she was prepping for a presentation. I gave her a head start, then got in my car. Her office parking lot was nearly empty, no sign of her blue sedan. I circled twice, thinking she'd parked elsewhere. Nothing. I pulled across the street, my heart hammering. Where was she? I waited an hour, checking my phone, hoping for a text saying she was coming home. Silence. I drove downtown, aimless, scanning every lot, every street. Then I saw it, her car, tucked behind a wine bar we'd never been to. I parked a block away, my palms sweaty. Was this it? Was she with him? I didn't go in. I couldn't. If I saw her with someone, I'd lose it, yell, break something, ruin any chance of staying calm. Instead, I snapped a photo of her car, time-stamped, and drove home. She got back at 10, cheerful, saying her team nailed the presentation. I nodded, forcing a smile, but my mind was on that photo. I dug deeper. Checked her coat pockets when she wasn't looking, nothing but lint and a gum wrapper. Listened to her phone calls, catching snippets that sounded too personal for work. Once, she laughed in a way she hadn't with me in months, soft, intimate. I stood outside the door, invisible, my fist clenched. I knew I was crossing lines, but her lies justified it. I wasn't the one sneaking around. I wasn't the one locking my phone. I deserved the truth, and if she wouldn't give it, I'd take it. She started hiding her phone whenever I entered the room, but one evening she left it on the counter, buzzing with a notification. So I waited until she was asleep, then unlocked it with her fingerprint. My hand shook as I opened the messaging app. There it was, a thread with Alex. No last name, no saved contact, but the history stretched back weeks. "Miss you already," he wrote after a late-night exchange. "Soon," she replied. with a heart emoji. I scrolled, my throat tightening. They talked about meeting at the usual place, about being careful. One message gutted me. He's clueless. Don't worry. Clueless. Me. I wanted to smash the phone, wake her, scream. But I didn't. I took screenshots, sent them to myself, deleted the traces from her messages. I put the phone back, exactly as I'd found it, and stayed awake until dawn. She'd called me clueless, but I wasn't anymore. I noticed more, her new perfume, how she lingered in the bathroom, texting. I checked our bank statements again. Charges at boutiques, hotels, places we'd never been together. I cross-referenced dates with her work excuses. They lined up perfectly. I was drowning, but I kept swimming. I had to know everything. Who Alex was, how long this had been going on, why she'd thrown us away. I wasn't ready to confront her, not until I had enough to shatter her lies. I tried talking to her, hoping she'd slip or confess, but she was colder than ever, brushing me off like I was a nuisance. So I installed a tracking app on her phone when she left it unlocked one careless morning. It was a line I never thought I'd cross, but I was done playing fair. The app showed her movements in real time. Mostly work, home, the gym, normal. But there were detours. A downtown cafe, a park on the city's edge, once a hotel 30 miles away. I saved every location, mapping her secret life. I drove to the cafe one afternoon, sitting across the street. She was there, at a corner table, laughing with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, dark hair, too comfortable with her. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. I didn't go in. I wasn't ready to face it head-on. I kept tracking. The app pinged with new places. I cross-checked with her excuses. Lunch with a client was a lie. She'd been at that park. Errands meant a bar 2 towns over. Each lie stacked on the last, and I hated how good she was at it. I lost sleep, my days blurring into a cycle of work and suspicion. But I didn't quit. The truth was close, and I'd tear it from her life if I had to. I found a receipt in her purse from a cafe we'd never visited, but she said it was a work lunch with a colleague. So I went there myself. The barista recognized her photo. Yeah, she's here a lot, he said. Usually with that guy, tall, in a suit. I thanked him, my voice steady, but inside I was coming apart. I showed him a photo from her social media, hoping it was a friend I'd met. He shook his head. Nah, not him. The other guy's got darker hair, maybe older. I left with a coffee I didn't drink, my mind spinning. I dug further. Checked her phone again. Risky, but I was desperate. The messages with Alex were gone, deleted, but I found an unsent email draft. Just a few words. Need to talk. It's getting messy. Messy how? I saved a screenshot, my hands trembling. I started tailing her myself. No app needed. One evening, she said she was meeting a friend. I followed at a distance. She parked at a restaurant, met the same man from the cafe. They didn't touch, but their ease screamed intimacy. I watched from my car, invisible, my heart a stone. I had enough to confront her, but I wanted more. I wanted her to have no way out. I compiled everything, screenshots, receipts, tracking data, photos, but I knew she'd twist it, cry, make me the villain. So I hired a private investigator. I needed someone objective, someone who'd see what I couldn't trust my eyes to confirm. He was efficient. Within days, he had a file, timestamps, addresses, license plates. The man was Alex Kravitz, a lawyer, married, no kids. They'd been meeting for months, hotels, bars, even a weekend at that hotel. The investigator gave me photos. Her smile in them was one I hadn't seen in years. I studied the file alone, my office door locked. Each page was a blade, but I read every word, memorized every date. She'd built a whole life behind my back, and I'd been too trusting to notice. I wasn't angry anymore, just focused. She'd underestimated me, and that was her mistake. I planned my next move. I wouldn't yell or beg. I'd dismantle her lie with precision, and she'd face the consequences. The pain was gone, replaced by clarity. I wasn't the man who'd stood trembling in the dark, clutching her phone. I wasn't a victim. I was done waiting for explanations, hoping for a truth she'd never give. I sat in my office, the investigator's file spread out, and saw my life for what it was, a game she'd played and lost. I started rebuilding myself. Hit the gym, not for her, but to feel strong again. Met with a lawyer, quietly, to know my options. Moved money to a separate account, not out of spite, but to protect what was mine. Every step was deliberate, like laying bricks for a new foundation. I watched her now, not with desperation but with detachment. She didn't notice the change, didn't see how I stopped asking questions, stopped chasing her lies. I let her think she was winning, that I was still the clueless husband she mocked. But I was writing the end of her story, not mine. I practiced what I'd say, how I'd say it. No shouting, no tears. Just facts, cold and undeniable. I imagined her face, the moment she realized I knew everything. It didn't bring joy, but it brought purpose. I wasn't just surviving her betrayal. I was outsmarting it. I bought a new suit, not for her, but for the man I was becoming. I looked in the mirror and saw someone who didn't bend, didn't break. She tried to rewrite our life, but I held the pen now. I chose the restaurant carefully, the one where she'd lied about a colleague. Booked a corner table, private but visible. I invited her to dinner, saying I wanted to reconnect. She hesitated, then agreed, probably thinking she could keep up the act. She arrived in a dress I'd always loved, her smile rehearsed. I poured her wine, made small talk, let her relax. She didn't see the envelope by my plate, didn't notice my calm was a blade. We ordered dessert, and I slid the envelope across the table. "What's this?" she asked, laughing nervously. "Open it," I said, my voice even. She did. Photos spilled out, her and Alex, laughing, touching, screenshots of their texts. The investigator's report, neatly typed. Her face drained of color, her fork clattering to the plate. What is this?" she stammered. "Explain," I said, leaning back. "Tell me why you thought you could lie to me for months. Who's Alex? Go on." She tried to speak. Denials, excuses, tears. I didn't flinch. I laid out everything. The hotel bookings, the cafe receipts, the tracking data. She couldn't twist it, couldn't run. The restaurant hummed around us, oblivious to her unraveling. "I trusted you," I said, not loud, not angry. "And you made me a fool." "Not anymore." I stood, leaving cash for the bill. She grabbed my arm, begging, but I pulled away. "We're done," I said, and walked out. The next morning, I filed for divorce. My lawyer had it all: copies of the evidence, financial records, an airtight case. I didn't want her money or her tears. I wanted freedom. She called, texted, left voicemails promising to change. I didn't answer. Her friends reached out, saying she was devastated. I didn't care. Alex's wife got a package too, anonymous, with just enough for her to decide his fate. I heard they split. Good. I moved out, rented a new place, started fresh. The gym became my sanctuary, work my focus. I wasn't broken, I was remade. She lost more than me. Her lies cost her reputation, peace, her future. I didn't need to see her suffer to know I'd won. One evening, months later, I sat on my balcony with a beer, the city alive below. I thought of her briefly, not with pain, but with indifference. She was a closed chapter, a lesson learned. I raised my glass to the man I'd become, one who didn't beg, didn't break, didn't lose.